at Copenhagen. If we have a little bit of Real Madrid-itis about us, we'll say Chelsea haven't got as much rest.
Yeah.
But there you go, it is what it is, Thursday to Sunday, rather than the Arsenal schedule. But yeah, I mean, with a striker or without, I think Arsenal will be too strong here, to be honest with you.
Stevie, can you give Chelsea a case?
I can't. I'm trying to figure out where they're going to... You know, we've been talking the last few weeks about where's Arsenal's goals coming from.
Yeah.
Well, you can say the same thing about Chelsea. I mean, I never thought at the start of the season I would say, I think they're missing Nicholas Jackson. But I think they are, because he doesn't give them that silky finish up top. But what he does do is he moves defenders around, he runs in behind, he opens up spaces, particularly for Cole Palmer. And since Nicholas Jackson has been out, Cole Palmer's steadily kind of drifted a little bit from that silky goal-scoring genius to now he's kind of struggling. He's kind of overdoing things to try and get back that magic. And I think a lot of it is down to the fact that Jackson's not playing. So, yeah, I'm not sure where Chelsea's goals are coming from. Arsenal's at home. I expect Arsenal to win this game.
They're in the same boat, Chelsea, in a sense that Man City are in, whereas they're sort of looking over their shoulder at those that may make a run. Villa, Newcastle, Bournemouth, anybody like that, Brighton. So they're looking over their shoulder. They can't afford... I mean, obviously, if they pick up a point in this game, it's not bad. If they get 3, it's great. But they're in a position where they have to have a bad 4 or 5 games in a row towards the end of the season. Any team that does that, and you could be out of the Champions League for next season. So it's going to be a nervous time for them. And you do think if they get in the Champions League next year, Chelsea, they will go out. As good as Nico Jackson was at the start of the season, you'd think if Maresca's in the job, which you would think he is, they'll go out and try and buy a player for that position. You know, Arsenal are looking for one, and Chelsea are definitely looking for one as well. Because, you know, Nkunku was going to be the player that came in initially and do it. He hasn't, if we've been honest. Nico Jackson's done it at times. But they're definitely going to go and have to spend in this position. But if they don't get in the Champions League, that's a bit more of a worry for Mr. Maresca, I'm afraid.
Pressure more on Chelsea for this.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
well,
Arsenal know it's done. Arsenal know it's done. Arsenal
Look,
going
Mikel Arteta's refused to say it. Walked out of interviews last time after the result against United.
Listen, Arsenal players right now are looking to make sure they get in the team for the Champions League games. So that is what they'll be holding on to. I don't think anybody at Arsenal realistically thinks they've got a chance of winning the Premier League. So they'll be concentrating on the Champions League. And for the players, I need to make sure I play well enough that I'm playing. I want to play in the quarter-final of the Champions League. So that's what Arsenal players are playing for.
And you can kind of sell that a little bit to the crowd and the media if the league has gone, which it has. If you could beat Real Madrid, it is Real Madrid, isn't it? If you could beat Real Madrid over the 2 games, and you're in the semi-finals of the Champions League, you know, you can say, well, that's progression for us, you know what I mean? And then you're giving yourself a chance. But if they get knocked out as expected, because Real Madrid are going to be the favourites, even though we know they haven't always been great, if you get knocked out there, you're 10 or 15 points behind your biggest rivals at this point in the league, so you've dropped off there. You've gone out the Cup, the Carabao Cup, and out the FA Cup to Man United, a team that was really struggling at the time. That's not going to be a very good look for the manager at the end of the season. So, as Stevie says, it's all eggs in this Champions League basket.
From North London, it kicks off at 9:30 Eastern. It's Arsenal against Chelsea, Arteta against Maresca. And Robbie, Arsenal have a Champions League quarter-final against Real Madrid. It does not get much bigger.
No.
That's in a few weeks. They've got to make sure, haven't they, that in the intervening period, that doesn't dominate everything.
Yeah, I think there's 3 games, including the Chelsea one, between that and the Real Madrid quarter-final. I'm not going to be stupid enough to say the priority for Arsenal has to be that Champions League quarter-final. But not far behind it is finishing second in the league, by the way. Having done it twice already, you don't want to drop down the league and be 4th, 5th or something, and whether they win the Champions League or not. This team deserve to and should finish second behind Liverpool, and then let's see what happens in the Champions League, which is going to be 2 great games against one of the best teams in Europe.
Tim, I say they can't let it dominate, but they're only human. And if you have gone the whole season and it's ended as disappointingly as it has for Arsenal again, but you have a chance for the Champions League, you're just a human being. You're just going to shift your focus naturally, aren't you, to that game?
Probably, and that's okay. But I think you talk about the human side. They're asked to be robotic, and they're asked to look at things kind of in these little cylinders and buckets. So I don't think it's a matter of they have to completely dismiss it. I do think Arsenal are well set up. I do think over the course of 2 legs, they'll certainly give themselves a chance. I don't think they'll be completely swept aside, which is a good thing for them. And then, yeah, naturally, they want to finish second. I agree with Robbie. I think you have to balance both because where their idea was that they would win the title this year, and that didn't happen. But I don't think you can fall away from second. I still think you have to show improvement. So second, okay, you're knocking on the door. You don't want to, as Robbie said, I think mentally going into summer, stumble to 4th or 5th, and now all of a sudden it feels like more of a mountain to climb. I think you can balance both.
Can they win the Champions League?
They can, because 145 minutes across 2 games can change the Champions League. They've got players coming back. But against one of the best teams in Europe who know how to get things done, I think they're definitely second favourites.
Agree with that?
Yeah, I think they're second favourites. But again, I think we would both agree. They'll be in the game. I do think they'll be in the game over the course of both legs. And when you do that, you give yourselves a chance.
Big test for their defence, by the way. He's one of the best defences in the league.
And giving Arsenal fans a reason to be proud of the club again.
Yeah, I agree that he should remain the Arsenal manager. I mean, I think there has been a little bit of a blind spot with the number 9. This has been a problem for 3 years. This is not something that's appeared overnight. It's not been a 6-month issue. I feel as though that should have been addressed in one of the last 4 or 5 transfer windows, to be honest. No doubt has he picked the club up and, like you say, installed a culture and an environment positive, and is taking it to a new level. I just wonder, when you've been waiting for City to fall off their standards for so long, and the moment they do, which is this season, I mean, I don't think anyone's seen their fall off coming. His team weren't capable to take advantage of that. So I can understand the frustration. I think there's 1 year left, but he's got to sign a number 9.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Listen, at the start of the season, I remember being on this show, actually, and asking or debating whether you'd rather have Arsenal's defence, which was one of the best in the Premier League last season, and they added as well, I think quite well, Calafiori came in, which gave them more depth. And it generally is defences that win titles. Because you can win games 1-0. You don't have to be that spectacular. But
which
if you've got a really... Absolutely, which was the Arsenal way. And they've kind of stuck to that. But up front, they just haven't had that ability to be able to finish teams off. And that's what's put pressure on him. But I just hope that the fan base a little bit, as you've been saying, the bit less short-sighted, and they can see the bigger picture of what has changed.
So obviously they didn't go and get that number 9. Then they also had a spate of attacking injuries, which is why we're seeing things like Kieran Tierney, part of the front 3, in midweek against PSV. The experiment, shall we call it, with Kai Havertz, do you think there is like a stubbornness in Mikel Arteta that says, that works, I've used him, I'm going to prove it works? And that's why he hasn't gone out and bought a number 9?
See, for me, this isn't. It wasn't an experiment. This was all part of the plan. When I look back to the summer transfer window, when Raheem Sterling became available, they moved heaven and earth, and they got that done within 48 hours because he wanted that player. So everyone from the outside of Arsenal said they've needed a 9. Mikel Arteta obviously feels that they didn't. That's his choice as the manager. He could have brought a number 9 in, even if he wasn't at the level he would have liked him to be.
Yeah.
You could have still got someone to fill that void and kind of like, I don't feel that he has to be a world-class 9, because I feel as though with all the world-class players around him, you could still make a 9 look good in that team, in that philosophy.
Glenn, you've been a striker. Can I ask you, if you're in the box, do you feel Arsenal need a penalty box striker, or do you think they need an Isak-type striker who can make his own luck?
I would refer to Isak as both. I think he can do both. So I think that's probably a bad example, sorry. But I think they need a 9 that is going to occupy, that's going to be in and around there, that's going to score goals, that's going to be that kind of anticipation of where that ball's going to drop. And I think with all the quality around you, when you look at Odegaard and Trossard and Saka when he's fit, that also creates space for them. So just a number 9. I don't want a 9 that, because obviously they've got Jesus at the club that's referred to as a number 9, but he drifts and he wants to get involved in play.
That's my question. My question.
Stay there. You occupy your 2 centre backs. That'll create space for others. If they get attracted to the ball, that'll create space for you. So it's a knock-on effect, and it's beneficial for everyone around.
It's interesting. I think that's part of the frustration for Arsenal fans, because other clubs have managed to find, especially during the January transfer window, attacking players who've made a big difference. The biggest example is probably Asensio at Aston Villa. You know, they managed to bring in a Marcus Rashford who's got renewed energy, and they've seen a change. And so I think part of that frustration with Arteta and not signing the 9 is, well, does he need the perfect one? Does he need the world-class one? Or, as you said, he just needed somebody in there in that position who was capable, because he has world-class all around him.
Yeah, I tend to feel as though if you bring an elite 9 in, not world-class, not an Isak, but if you bring an elite striker in of a 9 that knows the position well enough, he will look even better with those surroundings, because your caliber's going to be better with the heightened quality around you, without any doubt, and just. But this has been a problem for 5 transfer windows. This is not something new. So this is Mikel Arteta, the sporting director. This is Arsenal's choice to be in this situation, as far as I'm concerned. So that leads me to think: has this process ended?
And has the cycle come to an end? I think there's at least one more season in it. I still do think that there is more to come, because, as you say, if the striker does come in that they need, and I do agree, I think it should be a penalty box striker rather than somebody who drifts outside, because you've got so much creativity around the box, then Arsenal could easily be up there and scoring goals and winning those games that they've drawn or lost this season. And I think certainly the perception of
The Gunners have been hit hard by losing Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus to injuries in the second part of the season, and it's been a crucial factor in the team falling away from Liverpool in the title race. We saw how much the team struggled without a recognised number 9 last month in their 1-0 loss to West Ham before a 0-0 draw against Nottingham Forest that effectively ended their challenge. Arsenal did manage to score 9 goals in both legs of their Champions League last 16 tie against PSV, but it's clear the team have had difficult times while trying to play with Mikel Merino as a makeshift centre-forward. Dwight Yorke believes Arsenal have been deflated by their lack of a striker. Supporters have fumed at the club for failing to sign a new striker in January, despite being linked with the likes of Ollie Watkins and Benjamin Sesko. Manchester United legend Dwight Yorke believes the players have been left deflated by their crisis up front and says a new forward would have energised the team in the title race. He told Casino Beats, "I think it was clear to everybody who was watching that Arsenal needed to really energise their team with a big name signing, a big personality coming into the club to really give the place a lift, because that can be enough to get you over the line. In January, February, March, it's when the season is really testing, and you need to be at full pelt to get through those phases. I feel when you look at what happened at Arsenal in the transfer window, that has been so disappointing for them that even the players got deflated. The supporters are now deflated. I think it stemmed from that, and it shows in their performances. It's a strange one. I just think that Arsenal should have really gone out on a limb to try to get someone. I looked at Benjamin Sesko, and he's a good player as well. I think him and Isak are the 2 players that I would have tried to sign to give you some kind of momentum going into the latter stage of the season. Arteta has been sorely missing Saka's match-winning ability after the England star was ruled out for a lengthy spell with a hamstring problem that required surgery back in December. Saka had previously scored 9 times and assisted 10 in all competitions, and it's clear Arsenal have struggled without his quality, though it won't be long before the winger is back on the pitch. Arteta has laid out a roadmap for Saka to return to the first team, saying he will return to training next week. While he definitely won't be available for Chelsea this weekend, he will have a much better chance of featuring after the international break, with the Champions League quarter-final against Real Madrid a possibility. He is going to be here at the Arsenal training ground next week, hopefully more with ball at his feet than he has had. That will mean he is passing the ball and shooting and running and everything. He has done quite a lot already on the pitch working on his own. Next, we need to arrange it with people around him in a more competitive training session and see how he goes with that. Hez getting closer, Hez stepping up and making a very good progress, I would say. So, let's see when we start to throw him in with the team, how he reacts and how fit he can get quickly.